To ensure your safety, turn off the power switch and unplug the power cord from its electrical outlet in these situations. Bobbin is taken out and/or put into the bobbin case. Threading the needle thread. Changing the presser foot. Changing the needle. Maintaining the machine. While sewing, keep an eye on the needle and keep hands away from all the moving parts. Insert cord connector into machine socket inlet. The plug socket is on the right side of the sewing machine. Insert plug into socket outlet. Turn on the power switch. Press the power switch upward to turn on the light and power. Please note that the needle will up and move left and right. Pull the auxiliary table to the left to remove it. You can use it as a storage box of accessories by opening the lid on the back of the auxiliary table. Free arm sewing is convenient for sewing tubular areas, such as pant hems and cuffs. Press the Start-Stop button to start the sewing machine. Press the Start-Stop button again to stop the sewing machine. The color of the button indicates machine status. Green is ready to start or while sewing. Red is not ready to start. Orange is when winding the bobbin. The sewing machine can be stopped using the foot controller. In case foot controller is used, turn off the power switch. Insert the foot controller plug into the foot controller jack. Turn on the power switch. The sewing speed is controlled by pushing on the foot controller. Press the foot controller gently to sew slower, and firmly to sew faster. To set the upper speed limit, adjust the speed adjustment slider. To increase the sewing speed, slide the lever to the right. To decrease the sewing speed, slide the lever to the left. For the straight stitch, you can prevent the thread from fraying by reverse stitching at the beginning and end of sewing. For the straight stitch, when machine is not sewing, the machine will sew reverse at the low speed if the reverse button is pressed. Release the button to stop the sewing machine. For straight stitch, during machine is sewing, the machine will sew reverse at the low speed if the reverse button is pressed. The machine will sew forward after the button is released. You can prevent the thread from fraying by applying a reinforcement stitch at the beginning and end of sewing. Here, we will introduce a different method from reverse stitching. When start sewing the straight stitch, press the auto lock button. Machine will sew 3 stitches in the same position, then stop. While sewing, press the auto lock button. Machine will sew 3 stitches in the same position, then stop. When sewing decorative patterns, To stop sewing after completing the pattern, press the auto lock button during sewing. When you do so, the pattern is completed and the machine automatically stops. Use the speed adjustment slider to control the sewing speed. Slide the lever to the right to increase the sewing speed. Slide the lever to the left to slow down the sewing speed. This sewing machine can automatically cut the thread after sewing. To cut the thread, press the thread cutter button after sewing. This sewing machine has a function to determine the stop position of the needle. With the needle up-down position button, you decide whether the needle stops in the highest or the lowest position when you stop sewing. To change the sewing direction while sewing machine is stopped, press the needle up-down button to stop the needle at the low position. To remove the fabric, press the needle up-down button to raise the needle. Please change it according to the application. This sewing machine has a function to change the pattern width of the sewing pattern. If the preset stitch width needs adjusting once the pattern is selected, press Mode button, Mode, to move to stitch width position. The stitch width position is the second from the top. Pressing minus button, display value becomes smaller, and the stitch width becomes smaller accordingly. Pressing plus button, displayed value becomes larger, and the stitch width becomes larger accordingly. Different stitches will have different width limitation. The width that can be set is determined by the pattern. For details, please refer to the pattern list in the instruction manual. When the straight stitch is selected, the needle position can be changed by adjusting the stitch width. Press Mode button, Mode, to move to the stitch width position. The stitch width position is the second from the top. The preset position is 3.5, center position. The unit is millimeter. Press the plus button to move the needle position to the right. Press the minus button to move the needle position to the left. This sewing machine has a function to change the pattern length of the sewing pattern. If the preset stitch length needs adjusting once the pattern is selected, press Mode button, Mode, to move to the stitch length position. To shorten the stitch length, press the minus button. The displayed value becomes smaller, and the stitch length becomes smaller accordingly. For a longer stitch length, press the plus button. The displayed value becomes larger, and the stitch length becomes larger accordingly. The unit is millimeter. The stitch length that can be set is determined by the pattern. For details, please refer to the pattern list in the instruction manual. The presser foot lifter is to raise or lower your presser foot. Lower the presser foot when sewing. Raise the presser foot when removing the fabric. When sewing multi-layers or thick fabrics, the presser foot can be further raised up manually to allow enough height space for your sewing work. This section explains how to replace the presser foot. Please use the appropriate presser foot according to the sewing pattern. You can confirm the suggested presser foot symbol on the stitch pattern plate or the instruction manual. Turn off the power switch before replacing the presser foot. Remove the presser foot. Raise the presser foot lifter. Press the back lever to release the presser foot. Attach the presser foot. Lower the presser foot lifter until the cutout meets the pin. The presser foot will attach to the presser foot holder automatically. If it cannot set the presser foot to the holder, press the pin on the back. In the case of for free motion quilting, button sewing, etc., this machine can be down the feed dog. The drop feed lever can be seen on the base at the back side of the sewing machine. Move the drop feed knob to the left-hand side in case the feed dog is in the down position. Move the drop feed knob to the right-hand side after sewing. The feed dog will be engaged automatically when the machine starts to sew. Proper tension setting is important for sewing. Basic thread tension setting is 4. When the thread tension is well balanced, needle and bobbin threads interlace with each other at the middle of the fabric thickness. Adjustment may be necessary according to fabric and sewing applications. When the needle thread is too strong, the bobbin thread will be pulled to the front side of the fabric. Turn the thread tension adjustment dial towards minus. When the needle thread is too weak, the needle thread will be pulled to the wrong side of the fabric. Turn the thread tension adjustment dial towards plus. This sewing machine can adjust the pressure to press the fabric according to the thickness of the fabric to be sewn. Standard presser foot pressure set at 2. For sewing very thin fabric, loosen the pressure by turning the screw counterclockwise to move the screw upward and the pressure decreased. For heavy fabric, tighten the pressure by turning the screw clockwise to move the screw downward and the pressure increased.